Right, a bone layer is just basically to organize your rig. So the under the hood can remain under the hood, if you know what I'm saying. So basically showing only what you need to pose. All right, and you also have the color group, which are done by using bone groups. And this is to basically help give visual cues as to what does what. For example, in this example, the right is red and the left is green, and the blues are the core components, as well as the yellows are the secondary component to actually pose. All right, so it makes it easier for the animator to just concentrate on posing, as well as those custom bone shapes, which are there to actually make it easier to select and give a little bit of cues as to what does what. Now, unlike in the example that I have right here, you should probably make the mesh behind it unselectable, so it's much easier to actually manipulate for the animator. Now, we're going to replicate all of this on a much simpler example. All right, so this universal joint will act as our simpler example. Now, if you want to follow along, you can open 08 bone layers group custom shapes.blend, and then you'll be presented with this actual universal joint that AD created, and it's already locked, so you cannot select the objects, but you can select the bone. All right. So this rig itself is not organized properly in the layers, and it does not have custom group colors as well as custom bone shapes. And it makes it harder to know what is going to be doing what. So I know for a fact, because I created that rig, that the bones that are needed to be used by the animator is this top bone, this middle bone, and that bottom bone, because this one is the root, this one is the rotation, and this one is the tilt. All right, and the rest are basically just there to make it work. All right, so if I would want to hide the bones that are not needed, all right, I simply need to select them and then press M on the keyboard for move and choose another layer like this bottom one or this bottom one on the second stack. All right. So if I would want, for example, these 3 bones to also be on that layer but remain on this one, I can also do that. And to do that, I press M, and then I press Shift, and then I click. And then notice that both of the squares are highlighted in blue. This means that these bones are on both of these layers now. So if I go here, I still have these bones, as you can see now. Now, if I would want to remove these bones but remain on another layer, you simply need to have the bone selected, press M, press Shift, and then uncheck the layer you want them to not be in anymore. And then you can do that for any of these layers. And usually I use these ones as the animator selections, and these ones for anything that is backbone that you don't need to actually see or animate directly by the animator. So basically to not break the rig. So anything on this side, I usually use for controls that are needed to be animated. All right, so that's the organization, and that's how the layers work. So let's take a look at the bone groups. So the bone groups, for example, here. All right, so I'm going to create 3 bone groups, 1 for each bone. All right, so this one will be the root. The second one will be the rotation. So I'm going to call it rotation. And the last one will be the tilt. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to assign this root to this, and then I want to assign this to the rotation, and I want to assign this to the tilt. So this one is the root. So now if we want this to have a color, we need to add a color. So the default colors are the default bone colors, so they're true colors. Now, if you want to change that, you can use any of these colors that are there, as you can see. Right? So we can choose different colors of bone for each of the different parts. All right, so you have 2 red, it doesn't make sense. This one should be red, so rotation, I'm going to put red. And then this one could be a different color, so we're going to go with green, for example. Now, the trouble that I have with these is they're the same shades, the bones. Now, the problem I have with that is when you have multiple bones that are within that groups and you have them selected together, it's hard to tell which one is selected and which one is not. So for that matter, I prefer to use the custom color set. And from there, for the root, I'd set it to blue. And for this one, which is the extra selection, I'd set it to orange. I just want to set it to white, simply because this is active selection. Now in Blender, when you select an object and shift select multiple objects, these are the two colors that you have. Now to help demonstrate that, I have a few cubes here, and you'll notice that if I select one, this is the active object. It has a bright orange colors around it. And if I shift select any of the other cubes, the last one selected is the active object, and it is brighter than the selected objects, which are darker orange. All right, so it's similar to what I'm trying to do with the actual bone colors here. So because of that, I prefer setting the custom color set, so I know myself when I have multiple collection or selections because of the way it's done in Blender. So I can do the same thing with the rotation here. I'm gonna set this to pure red. Then I'm gonna set this one to orange, and I'm gonna set this one to white. All right, and then for this one, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna use a custom color set. We're going to make it green, so real green, and then we're gonna make that one again orange, and then that one white. Again, because when you have something selected, it's white, and when you have multiple selections, the extra selections will be orange, so it's easier to read that way. Now, all is needed to complete this rig is to add some custom bone shapes to make it even easier to select. And in order to do that, is very simple. We need to actually add some shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift and then click on this so I can select another object, and then make sure that I have the locked object modes off here so I can actually select my bone but still select an object. And then from there, I'm going to create a new collection. And I'm going to call that collection CBS for custom bone shape. All right. Now with the actual collection selected, I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add a circle mesh, which I think is a great start. Now I'm actually going to bring this to 6, and I'm going to use this one as a root. Now the actual bone is not facing the right way, and I'll show you why in a moment. So I'm going to quickly call this one root. All right. And I'm going to select the bone and then go to the bone panel, and under viewport display, you have custom shapes and then custom object. From there, you can select the picker and select the root object. And as you can see, it's not the right scale. So we can change the scale here, or you can change the scale in edit mode. All right, so if I scale this down like this, it doesn't make any difference. But if I go into edit mode and scale it, you'll notice that it's scaling. So we need to make a rotation of 90 degrees in the x-axis in order for us to be able to actually have it in the right direction. So I'm going to press R, X, and then 90. Right, so now it's facing the right direction. So this is my new custom bone shape for the root bone. And as you can see, if I select another bone, it already has the color codes of the bone groups that we assigned previously. So let's create a new one for this one. So for example, I'm going to select this and go Control or Shift A, sorry, and then go circles. And then this one, I'm going to bring it up to 12. All right, we're going to actually tab into edit mode and do R, X, and then 90 on the numpad to rotate it 90 degrees. And then we're going to go to the front or the side, is it the front? And I'm going to tab into edit mode, grab this vertex here and extrude it that way, and that one that way. And I'll do the same thing on the other side to sort of suggest that this is a rotational axis. All right. So now I'm going to select the bone, and I'm simply going to go to the viewport display under custom bone shapes, under custom object, select the picker and go select that object. And now I have a representative of rotation of custom bone shapes. Now let's add another one for the last one. So I'm going to add another circle, but I'm going to make it smoother. All right. And then let's actually rotate it right away in the X of 90 degrees. So I've missed my shot there. So RX and then 90. All right. And then from there, select the bone, go to select the bone, get out of edit mode first, otherwise it's not going to work. And then select the bone, go to the custom object, and then select it. And now we have it there. Now I'd like to have it a little bit further up. So the way to do that, you have to select it, go into edit mode, grab all the vertices, and then G and then Y to constrain it to the Y-axis. So you can see it move right now. So you can position it so it's pretty obvious as to what it does. All right, so now if I go back to this, I now have custom bone shapes with proper color groups as well as proper organizational advantage that we use in our bone layers. So this is all there is to custom bone shapes as well as bone groups and layers. All right, so if you find that these are sort of in the way, you can always select them and hide them by pressing H. You can also uncheck the CBS folder or hide the CBS folder altogether. All right, so that way you're not messing with them and you can still have access to them if you need to edit them later. Now, if you're 100% done with it and you know that you won't have to edit them again, you can also select them and delete them completely from the scene. And I'm also going to delete the collection. Now they will remain there simply because they're part of the bone data block now. So if you would like to reuse them, you will be able to reuse any of these custom bone shapes. However, you will not be able to edit them. So if you would like to be able to edit them, simply save this file and then append it inside another dot blend, and then they will reappear, so you'll be able to re-edit them. And that concludes basically the custom bone shapes as well as groups as well as layers of the Blender armature.